Ryan Caldwell stood barefoot on his soaking driveway, coffee mug still warm in his hands, watching the chaos unfold in Maple Grove Estates like some low-budget disaster movie. The crew in fluorescent vests, no company logos, no county permits visible, kept digging like they owned the place. Vanessa, clipboard pressed against her now see-through white polo, barely flinched as the water column blasted her fake blonde highlights into a drowned rat helmet. "Mr. Caldwell," she called out in that syrupy voice she reserved for peasants. "We're simply correcting unapproved subterranean encroachments on HOA-managed buffer zones. Think of it as neighborly maintenance." Neighborly? Ryan's jaw tightened. This was the same woman who'd fined him $200 last spring for non-compliant mailbox hue because his black box was apparently 2 shades too dark for the approved heritage beige palette. He'd stayed quiet then. He'd stayed quiet when she circulated that charming little rumor at the annual block party that he was the type who lets his grass grow rebellious. But watching his lawn fertilizer dissolve into toxic sludge while water sheeted straight into his open garage, that was the moment the quiet man decided to stop being quiet. He sprinted inside, grabbed the rolled-up survey from 1996 he'd inherited with the house, and marched back out. Mud sucked at his ankles. "Vanessa, this is my recorded utility easement. Signed, sealed, and filed decades before your little HOA cult even existed." She didn't even glance down, just waved a manicured hand like she was shooing a fly. "If you have concerns, submit them in writing to the board, dear. We'll review them at our next quarterly meeting in 6 weeks." The neighbors were already gathering. Mrs. Alvarez peeking over her prize roses, old Mr. Thompson slowing his walker to stare. Perfect audience for Vanessa's Oscar-worthy performance. By noon the geyser was capped, but the damage was biblical. Deep trenches scarred the grass Ryan had babied for 8 years. His prized azaleas looked like they'd been through a blender. Worse, the crew's enthusiastic shovels had sliced clean through the black, corrugated runoff pipe that kept hydrostatic pressure off his retaining wall. Without it, the entire backyard slope, tons of saturated earth, was now a ticking mud bomb. Ryan spent the afternoon tracing the destruction, stomach knotting tighter with every severed section. That night the sky opened. Not a dramatic thunderstorm, just a steady, soaking rain that drummed on the roof like sarcastic applause. Ryan lay awake listening to every drip, imagining the soil behind the wall growing heavier, meaner. At 3 a.m., he gave up, grabbed a flashlight, and slogged outside in flip-flops. There it was, a hairline crack spidering across the bottom block, mud weeping out like the wall itself was crying. Cosmic joke. The woman who preached property values above all had just turned his house into a potential landslide victim. He didn't scream. He didn't call the cops. Ryan Caldwell simply went up to the sweltering attic, dug through 30 years of boxed memories, and found the yellowed envelope marked House Docs, 1996. Grant of utility easement. Notarized signatures. Ironclad clause for a secondary irrigation and runoff line running directly under Vanessa's beloved brick HOA sidewalk. He clutched the paper like a winning lottery ticket and allowed himself one small, bitter laugh. "Courtesy excavation, huh? Thanks, Vanessa. You just handed me the keys to your kingdom." The next afternoon, an official HOA envelope appeared in his mailbox. $2,500 fine for unauthorized subterranean installations and non-compliant landscaping. Ryan read it twice, then framed it next to the easement on his hallway table like a matching set of trophies. He could already picture her face when the real bill came due. Vanessa wasn't done playing God. By Wednesday, the rumor mill was in overdrive. Mrs. Alvarez cornered Ryan at the curb with a sympathetic wince. "She's telling everyone at book club you installed some bootleg drainage system years ago, and that's why the pipe burst. Says it's endangering all our property values." Ryan just smiled politely and thanked her for the heads up. Inside, the rage was ice-cold and laser-focused. Let her spin her fairy tales. He had receipts from 1996. He called his old buddy Dave that night, the same contractor who owed him big after Ryan saved his business from a server meltdown. "Dave, I need your particular set of talents. Remember that data recovery miracle? Time to return the favor." By sunrise the next morning they were out with ground-penetrating radar, moving like ghosts along the edge of Vanessa's precious sidewalk. The screen lit up like Christmas. The backup line, clean and untouched, exactly where the easement promised. Dave grinned in the pre-dawn fog. She dug up her own noose, man. They tapped in at dawn, surgical and silent. A tiny pressure blip in the main community line, maybe 2 seconds, nothing anyone would notice. Ryan's sprinklers popped up an hour later like nothing had happened. The brown patches started greening overnight. Vanessa's hawk eyes spotted it immediately. Another envelope slammed into his mailbox by lunch. $1,800 for unauthorized diversion of community water resources. Ryan laughed so hard he had to sit down. He framed that one too. Her next move was pure theater. Overnight, the trench area sprouted orange cones, flimsy fencing, and a laminated sign declaring it a future community beautification zone, no private access. It looked like a kindergartner had played construction. Neighbors started whispering. When was this voted on? Why isn't it in the newsletter? Vanessa's power play was backfiring beautifully. Then came the cherry on top. A cheap dome camera on the HOA lamppost aimed straight at Ryan's driveway. He waved at it every morning like a game show host while watering his roses with theatrical flair. Later, he hacked the unsecured feed in under 10 minutes and replaced the live stream with looped footage of a fat squirrel riding his sprinkler head like a mechanical bull. Enjoy the circus, Vanessa. The sidewalk began its slow betrayal 2 days later. One brick settled, then a crack, then a jagged vein spreading like guilt. Young Timmy Alvarez came flying down on his scooter, hit the dip, and went airborne. His mom's scream echoed through the cul-de-sac. "That's it," she yelled at the cones. "This isn't beautification. This is a death trap." The neighborhood mood shifted from polite murmurs to open fury. Vanessa, sensing the tide turning, dragged her spineless husband Arthur out at dusk with a tub of pre-mixed concrete. Their repair looked like a toddler had finger-painted the crack. It was glorious. Ryan spent that night compiling his war folder, time-stamped photos of the original geyser, flooded garage, severed pipe, wall crack, sinking sidewalk, every fine, the easement, and a discreet shot of Vanessa and Arthur's pathetic patch job. He filed the formal county complaint at 8 a.m. sharp. 2 days later, the white county truck rolled up. Mr. Davies, utility inspector, stepped out looking like he'd already heard enough HOA nonsense for 3 lifetimes. Ryan handed him the folder. The man's eyebrows climbed as he flipped pages. "You came prepared." They walked the site together. Just as Davies was measuring the lumpy concrete, Vanessa came power-walking over in full Karen mode. "Is there a problem, officer?" Davies didn't even look up at first. "Several, actually. Unpermitted excavation. Violation of a recorded easement. Creation of a public hazard. You'll be hearing from us." For the first time in her reign, Vanessa Langley had no comeback. Her face went the color of spoiled milk. Ryan allowed himself the tiniest smirk as she retreated. Round 1 to the quiet guy. But Vanessa wasn't finished. At 1:07 a.m., Ryan's security app pinged. Infrared showed an unmarked van and 4 shadowy figures creeping toward the sidewalk. The 4th figure stepped into the flashlight beam. Vanessa herself, pink visor swapped for a black hoodie like she was starring in her own bad spy movie. Ryan hit record and watched the whole pathetic operation. Bricks pried up, quick-set concrete dumped like they were burying a body, desperate smoothing in the dark. His camera caught the van's plate, her face, everything. By sunrise, the email was sent to Mr. Davies with the attached video. The county's response was nuclear. Metal barricades went up by noon. Official hazard signs screamed, "Tampering with county site. Do not enter." A new citation landed on the HOA board for illegal nighttime repairs. And then the killer email blasted to every resident. Formal investigation into misuse of HOA funds. Vanessa's car vanished from her driveway. Her nameplate disappeared from the clubhouse door. The weekly newsletter header suddenly had no president listed. It was like the neighborhood had collectively ghosted her. The emergency board meeting was standing room only. Acting President Richard Baker looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 days. He didn't waste time. "Mr. Caldwell, the board would like you to share any relevant information." Ryan walked to the front with his black binder. He laid out the 1996 easement first, then the photos, then the county violations. Finally, he plugged in his laptop. The room went graveyard silent as the night vision footage played. Vanessa directing her secret crew like a budget mob boss. Gasps. Then outrage. Mrs. Alvarez stood up. I saw that van. Timmy's mom was next. My son could have broken his neck because of her mess. Hand shot up. Motion to suspend Vanessa immediately. Unanimous. Motion for full financial audit. Unanimous. Motion for Ryan's complete settlement. Deafening. Richard Baker looked like he might cry with relief. 2 weeks later, the licensed crews arrived. Real trucks, real permits, real competence. The sidewalk was torn out properly. The retaining wall got reinforced. Ryan's irrigation system upgraded. And right at the edge, they embedded a small stone marker. Community utility easement, maintained in partnership with homeowner. The backyard barbecue that followed was legendary. Neighbors brought dishes and apologies. Mrs. Alvarez hugged him with a still warm pie. You did what we were all too scared to do. Kids played on the lawn that had once been a mud pit. For the first time in months, Maple Grove Estates felt like a neighborhood instead of a police state. Vanessa tried one last pathetic flyer campaign. Anonymous K. rants about corruption, but they were laughed off the bulletin board within hours. Ryan archived everything digitally, cross-filed the easement with the county, and even got a small civic award from the mayor. He mounted it next to the retired evidence box in the garage. Sitting on his porch at twilight now, watching the sprinklers arc in perfect rhythm, Ryan felt something better than revenge: peace. The water flowed exactly where it was legally supposed to, right under the sidewalk that had once been Vanessa's throne. So tell me, was Ryan the neighborhood villain for quietly using the law, or was Vanessa Langley the real tyrant hiding behind community standards?